Things I enjoy. Instead, you just doubled down. It was bad. Actually, there was things I hated.
That's the perfect way to start. How are you, Charles?
I'm chewing a Stroop waffle.
And what
Stroop
about you,
waffle?
Dre?
Yeah.
I'm stroopwaffleless. Other than that, doing good.
Wow.
That sounds
Legit
tasty.
ones.
It's
They are so good, man.
I
Yeah,
feel
they-
like there's so much sugar I died for diabetes.
I,
Worth it.
I first discovered them in Netherlands in the airport in Schiphol, and yeah, I'm hooked.
They're kind of awesome,
They
especially
are.
if you're into coffee. You just kind of set it
Mm.
on top, and it's so good. So good.
I gotta say, it ends with us.
Dynamite segue.
That was an amazing Segui.
Yeah, I know. It ends with us. It's bad. I hated the experience.
It came in #1 in the box office. It made like 56 million that's opening weekend.
No,
How
you,
can you
flip
say
it.
it's bad?
I
Oh, was it?
almost
I-
walked out 3 times while watching. And usually I don't do that. Like, usually I sit through the end of movies. I almost walked out 3 times. And
50 million came in second its first week.
Oh, my bad. You're
Yeah,
right.
'cause
I
Damon-
did flip
Deadpool
its
did
number.
54. Yeah,
Oh, that makes sense. That's awesome.
it
At least
doesn't
there is some
deserve
justice.
that.
get wrecked, loser.
It just doesn't deserve that. No. Why? So I guess
Naughty
as I
girls
am
need
pulling
love
my
too.
notes, I will let Dre or Charles start on that one.
I need to be reminded because the second half of
Oh.
the movie kind of fades from
Let me paint a little picture for
Yeah,
you.
okay, so
Um,
yeah.
So this is
Spoiler.
a horrible flick. I don't know. I guess I don't hate it as much as Multi did, but I had to say horrible twice, so still not good. It starts with a slightly younger Blake Lively as an amazing character, totally real, with the very realistic name of Lily Blossom Bloom, and we know a little bit about her. She's super into flowers. But yeah, she's called back to her parents' town to go to her father's funeral, who has passed. And we learn that she has to give a eulogy, but she's unwilling to be like, hey, I don't want to do this, or I've got nothing to say here. So she tells her mom, I'm having issues with coming up with something to write. So her mom says, okay, that's super easy. Just write 5 things you like about him. That's super easy, which, you couldn't say like usually wears shoes, something like simple. Like it feels like you could come up with something, but it was a bridge too far for her. And then we're at the funeral the next day and she doesn't tell anyone, I'm not going to do this. She doesn't say, I couldn't come up with anything. Instead, she waits until all eyes are on her and it's her turn to give the eulogy. She walks up to the front, and that's when she pulls out this napkin that, after her mom told her write 5 things, she now has the numbers 1 through 5 written on there, and it's just blank. And I don't know if you guys truly caught the symbolism and the blankness of this napkin, but it's there. It means things. So anyway, then insteed of saying anything, she just kind of, I think she says like, and then just like storms off. I don't know. It doesn't make me like this character. I guess we're supposed to know that she has a problem with her dad,
Mhm.
but magically that napkin somehow means enough to her to keep for the duration of this entire film, because that's going to come back later. But then we're going to flash forward. All of a sudden, what would somebody named Lily Blossom Bloom do? Of course, she's going to open a flower shop because, she was named that way. It's just really bad. All the characters in this are bad. There's a previous boyfriend named Atlas, where it's like, okay, I guess somebody could be named Atlas. And then there's a new love interest named Ryle, where it's like, okay, I guess no, I really don't see anywhere where there's somebody named Ryle, just Kyle with an R instead of a K. That doesn't make sense to me.
In Novel, it doesn't matter the names.
But you've got Ryle, Lily Blossom Bloom, and Atlas in this weird love triangle, if you will. So yeah, she is trying to live her life, and she happens to meet somebody who comes up onto this roof and beats the crap out of a chair, and that's supposed to show her that he's a good guy and he just cares because it turns out he's a brain surgeon.
I got to
Ryle.
say, sorry, but here I got to say, is it a fantasy woman have to meet a violent guy on a rooftop?
Not as much.
Where do you meet your violent guys?
The fact that he's a smart man who's well paid, I think that
He's
is a bit more
rich.
shallow. Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't understand. He's a very smart brain surgeon who is rich, ripped. He's got nice abs,
Yeah,
like
he's not
well
ugly.
defined. We're talking like low digit body fat here.
Certainly not ugly.
and Lily Bloom says she's the unreliable narrator, but yet she tells her name.
Huh?
She tells her true name. She says, "I'm Lily," but she's an unreliable narrator. You're good at backing this up. Like, maybe dialogue would have been better if she gave away like a fake name or some shit. But no.
The dialogue is pretty horrible. She also mentions that she gave away her virginity to a homeless guy, or
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how she words it, but
Yeah.
just
This
says
is all
it in the
she
most
worded.
uncharitable way to her former love, Atlas.
And yeah, I was like, what? Why did you tell me that on the rooftop like that?
Well, I couldn't give him a home, so
I could give her some. That movie is so bad.
So then we fast forward a little bit, and she opens her flower shop, and then magically the day that she opens, while she's like clearing some stuff out of it, the magic best friend shows up and says like, "Hey, you've got to actually pay me to work here." And then her brother just happens to be this Ryle fella because it is supposed to be New York, right? It's a very small city.
yeah, I don't.
You
It's
run
Boston.
into people all the
It's
time.
Boston.
Still,
It's Boston. My bad. You're right. Such a small
They
city.
said Boston at least 10 times. Like,
it could
yeah,
be
I know where
Kansas
they
City.
I'm trying to forget it, man.
It could be Sioux City.
So the magic best friend, she happens to have her husband, which is Hassan Minhaj. Me and Charles have a little bit of a history with his work, but he always plays the comical best friend, along with Jenny Slate, who's this comical best friend. I don't know. A lot of her lines also really don't ring true to me. I usually like her as kind of the quirky friend character, but I don't know. For some reason, everything about it did not work in this one for me. I just didn't buy her as like, I don't really need a job. I always wanted to work in this building. So what do? Flowers? I hate flowers, but I'm going to work here. I'm going to be your best friend. We're friends now.
And I ate flowers as well.
Yeah.
I will
My
sell
husband's the most
flowers. I
charming
will
person in
sell
the world.
stuff I ate.
And I just happen to be the sister of this dude who I'm telling you, don't get with. Do not. Do not
But you
get with
do.
him.
But wait,
Yeah.
wait. Because we were speaking about flowers a few seconds ago, Charles mentioned something I like in the private chat. I'm sure you have a great way to deliver that line.
Oh, I'm just a child. Gray said she opens her flower shop, and I was like, ooh, euphemism.
It is. There's
That's
more
it.
symbolism. Got the blank page from earlier. Now you get her flower shop in the big city. It's finally open. Her dream. And then we keep getting flashbacks to kind of a time that happened before. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my sugar gliders.
That's
chirping,
fine.
But
It's the zoo.
okay. Yes, it's part of being a zookeeper. It happens. The marsupials, they're up at night. But yeah, it's just we get these flashbacks, which I guess the movie did it way more effective than the books. I guess in the books, it was a bunch of kind of diary entries, and they were really split up into like these little tiny incidents where it kind of puts it all into a little bit more coherent. I think there's 2 flashback scenes, if I remember right. It puts them into big chunks where these other ones were written in a gimmicky way that it was her writing to her best friend, who happened to be Ellen DeGeneres from the Ellen DeGeneres show, that she had as essentially her make-believe friend. So she'd be talking to Ellen. It's not done super effectively, but they tried to do a couple different things in this where they do mention Dory once, and then when they are hanging out, Ellen is on the TV, but Ellen DeGeneres made a much bigger appearance, and then her character from Finding Nemo made a much bigger significance to this actual story
It
in
was
the book.
like the first time that she invited the homeless boy inside her house. And, you know, how do you set the tone? You put Ellen DeGeneres on the TV
Yeah.
for date night.
Come on. No, haven't you seen her dance? It's fun. Everyone's having a good time. So yeah, they have a couple homages to Ellen in there, but yeah, you kind of get to see that you know, she sees this homeless fella and she brings him a bag of food. So I guess these in flashbacks are kind of set up and, you know, told differently all kind of throughout the relationship with Ryle. But instead we get it in kind of this chunk, which I guess the adaptation it makes it a little bit more effective for the screen for sure. It would be weird if we just keep flashing back in random time, especially if she's talking to Ellen DeGeneres. I don't know. I think they made a really good choice there. But
My head may
then-
be with the doctor, but my heart is with the stinky homeless man.
and I can't remember how far the flashback goes, but I know they have another time that ends with so you see that her and the kid are starting to get way more familiar, and he's making her these special hot chocolate cookies, I believe, and then the dad catches them, and no, maybe he doesn't catch them when they're making cookies. I can't remember, but the father eventually finds out, and he physically beats Atlas in front of her. And
That was later in the movie. I know it because I've seen it
that's in the
yesterday.
second flashback or
Yeah.
whatever. So you
Fourth
learn the
one.
story that she had this their fourth. Wow, I am not.
Yeah, they
remembering a lot of
kept
the movie,
doing
but-
freaking flashback to this shit.
Well, it's a lot better in the book than the book, I should say. But fair enough. So you end up hearing that she had this romance with this person who was homeless, who was going to go into the Marines or whatever, going to deploy. But before he does, her father beats the shit out of him, and then he never sees her again. So good times. Then we get this weird romance that she's doing with Ryle, and it really seems like they're trying to play it like a romance movie. Like they're really kind of playing this up. I don't know if the audience that you saw it in was kind of falling for it, but mine, a lot of them were like oohing and awing, like they were totally into the romance of so he's trying to woo her, but you know, like her sister is saying no, you know, she says she's not going to sleep with him or whatever, so they end up like sleeping in the same bed that night. Like, I don't know. Everybody was kind of falling for that in my theater. It seemed odd because I had it kind of spoiled that this is a special episode, if you will. There's a message behind this one. It's not just a straight up romance.
Isn't like that's when they're taking clothes off and standing apart from each other before they start sleeping together, right? Or sleeping together.
But I mean, like they're flirting with it. Also,
Yeah.
their scene on the roof where they're like, you know, getting a little intimate. That's also played kind of like a romance movie, aside from him beating the shit out of the chair upon entry.
You had some
You know, he's a brain
interesting
surgeon, and
comments.
he lost a patient, so you understand why that chair needed it. It's okay to kick the dog.
You don't have to highlight me for
Your
every
boss
little,
was mean to you.
you don't have to highlight me for every little joke I make.
I
You
like
need
your
the eye
jokes.
candy.
I like your jokes. Okay, they make everything better.
First, when Gray was talking about Atlas getting beat up, I put Atlas, comma, shrugged, and I was like, oh wait, no, Atlas shoved. And that's that. You had to be there, and I appreciate you stopping everything minutes later.
Hell yeah, that's how we do. But you mentioned audience, Gray. I think I have something valid I could point out is where I was, at least.
Multi-topic talk with us.
The room was crowded with women. And it's just because it's the audience that kind of movie wants. I guess. So instead of making superhero movies for women, make this.
Stanky Hallmark movies
Yeah,
with Bite.
but maybe try to make the movies better. Just saying.
Nah, no need.
Some of the women left the theater in the middle of the showing
Good for
because they
them.
were like, "That movie is stupid," and they left. So this was the experience in my theater. I do regret seeing this thing. I will admit. Now I will let Dre go on. Dre, are you
You might
still
be
with
having
us?
chirping.
He's mute.
Sorry about that.
Speaks and he's mute.
I thought I had time to go fill up a water bottle. My
Ah.
bad. It is a half gallon. I knew I was flying a little too close to the sun,
Whoa.
but I got it. Just yeah, I'm sorry. You guys had that like 5 seconds of dead air. Okay, so Ryle and Lily Blossom Bloom, they're getting their relationship on, and you're learning more and more about them. And then you get some scenes that don't quite make sense. Like, for instance, Lily is, or no, I guess Ryle is cooking. Yeah, I guess Ryle is cooking. And he goes to the oven, and like any surgeon, he takes the pan out of the oven with his bare hand without a hot pad or anything like that. And then it kind of flashes, and you think maybe he accidentally like elbowed her in the face or something like that. And then you see that his hand is I think he burnt it, but then I think somehow he also touches the glass with it and cuts his hand. It's a really dumb move for a surgeon. But however that happens, he gets bandaged up, and she has a black eye now. But it felt like there's something that they didn't quite show in that moment. And it does this a couple more times. And
She
I
fell
guess
on his elbow. She was asking.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, what is your elbow to do? Should it give way? Come on. It's interesting. So I guess the book got accused of really romanticizing the violence and the abuse. I don't feel like this film is doing that. I feel like it is
I
kind of
think
giving
it
you
did.
this.
But keep going. Sorry.
Compared to the book, apparently it's really toned down because the book really kind of goes into it, and there's so much more like verbal abuse that keeps going on, where this really toned it down. And its choice to make it somewhat ambiguous of like what exactly happened. Like, did he get burned and like jerk his arm back and possibly elbow her? And then I can't remember, she was laughing and then he cut himself. I don't really want to go back and rewatch it. I'm kind of forgetting the exact order. I remember her laughing, him getting burned, him cutting his hand on the thing, and it ending up with he has a bandage on his hand, she's got a black eye.
Yeah.
It could have made that way more, romantic in the middle of this, but it does seem to kind of tone it down. And part of that is what it chose to do with the way that it's revealing it with this whole kind of unreliable narrator thing. Because it does do another reveal, kind of a Rashomon thing, but it's really just you get the full context of what happened. You don't get that flash that happened later on, which is an interesting thing. The book isn't necessarily like that. It's not like everything just magically happens. It's a little bit more straightforward what happens in each of those. Like, she does have a memory kind of flood when it's like, oh, I do realize on the way to the hospital after the third incident, she does kind of look back at it more and realize more of what's going on. But I don't know. You see it as romanticizing it a little bit. Could I get you to expand upon that? What do you mean by it does?
Okay. So in my notes,
Okay.
that's a side note. I feel like the movie promotes the disregards and red flags in relationship. As long as the guy is good looking and rich, it's all good. Movie promotes SI culture and let women
did you see his abs though?
and let woman trope go on in a toxic way. Saying no means yes. In moments that are mixed between comedy and drama. Promote marriage without thinking about it. Promotes keeping a baby despite it having a shit father. Now, this is very personal, that part. And my screen is weird, but as someone that has a broken family, I know bad father exists, right? And each time I see that kind of stuff, that kind of story being told in movies and such, I always question, like, why would people just tell, oh, sometime we should keep the baby and such, like, or maybe she should bring the baby to adoption. I don't know, like, I these are so many thoughts I have, and maybe that's because of
Well,
my
the
personal
film
life. But
tries to get away from that by basically implying that he signed over all of his like parental rights and everything. Like they have that conversation, like, "What would you tell your daughter if her boyfriend was doing this?" And then he would say, like, "It ends." It's they're trying to kind of have their cake and eat it too with this. It is apparently different from the novel, where the novel doesn't have him leave the life. Instead, now they're tied together for 18 years and they have to deal with like, weekly transfers of the child. They're guaranteed to interact, where the movie kind of changes that. So there's some interesting things. Like I hear what you're saying, but the movie toned it down significantly from the book, apparently.
the book is an abomination that nobody should read then. And
I hear
I
what you're
strongly
saying.
believe that. I feel like a lot of books, romance books, promote that kind of shit. And because most readers of that kind of shitty books are women, that's why a lot of relationships fall apart. I'm sorry, but if all you're reading are romance books, real life is not romance books. So I don't know, like it's bad.
But I don't know if this is a romance because, like, so she doesn't get with Atlas in this. It just kind of goes over essentially a bad relationship and kind of how you do have those rose-colored glasses at first. You are willing to overlook certain things. You're not necessarily looking at things objectively. Where it seems like her memories kind of flood back to her, and she sees it anew later on. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm just not sure that it is a romance, which is weird because they certainly play it up like a romance. I know, like I was saying, it felt weird because I kind of knew where it was going, but the audience really took it as this is a romance, and they were really kind of falling for all of the gestures and stuff. And when he proposed, they were kind of all for it.
Yeah, so I guess since I kind of opened the floodgate, now I'll go into other notes. So here are my issues, and I think I will start with the one I find the most interesting one. The overall tone of the movie felt off. It's like one of the producers, director wanted to do some drama, and the other wanted to make a comedy. I feel like the tone was weird. Maybe I'm crazy. Am I crazy? What guys are thinking about that, the tone of the movie?
It's really weird. It does feel like it's kind of like part Hallmark movie, part romance, and it's strange. I do agree with you. The tone is weird. I didn't catch any comedy or anyone trying to make it comedy, but I don't know. Comedy suggestive. It's very suggestive and subjective.
I feel like some of the dialogue was supposed to be funny. And I feel like a lot of the ideas in the exchange between characters were supposed to be funny.
Charles,
But
you're insightful, and you're a
yeah,
comedian. I know you're the box office guy, but I don't know. What were your thoughts on the tone? Comedic?
No, no. I think I guess there's the back door of the unreliable narrator, but it has moments where it feels like it's supposed to be charming, but like if you pay attention to what's happening, it's not charming at all. It's kind of weird, and like it freaks me out that there were people reacting to it as if it were a romance movie, which I don't know. Some audiences aren't keen enough to realize that, and just because it's shot a certain way doesn't mean that you should be falling in love with or agreeing with something that's being shown to you.
and
But
and
go ahead.
I I think they wanted to do a romance movie, but I might be wrong there. But I think they were trying to do, or someone there involved in it was like, let's do a romance movie about that romance that's like a fantasy, but we got the abuse part where it's bad, but like it's part of it, you know. But I might be wrong.
Those are
again.
part of the book, but well, I just made a bunch of mouth noises. The tone to me also feels very much off. There was a lot of like drama, and my phone is on the floor. There was a lot of drama and kind of weirdness going on behind the scenes in production of this. There might have been kind of multiple ideas and directions kind of put forward at the same time. I know there is still like an element of romance and then this whole message in the actual novel, but I don't know. Perhaps the lack of like clear focus and kind of weird tone is coming from too many chefs. I guess there was a lot of drama between Justin Baldoni, who is the lead guy, Ryle, in this. He directed this on top of having those abs. So good for him. But I guess it was really hard working with Blake Lively, the female lead, Lily Blossom Bloom, because I guess she kept trying to take over. Rumors have it that she even brought in Ryan Reynolds to direct a few scenes. The rumors go on further that like she made her own cut of the film and then submitted that to like test audiences, and it scored worse than Justin Baldoni's. He was unfollowed by all of the cast and the author shortly before the premiere, or like right after the premiere. He's not been seen doing any promotion with anybody else from the movie. He is still promoting it. And then when it came in number 2 and made like nearly, I think you said 48, so it made almost 50 million its
50.
opening weekend. They're like, this totally deserves a sequel. So you're going to direct the sequel, right? And he said no. That sounds like something like Lively should do. So I don't know. I'm not sure that this was like a cohesive vision on this. That might lead to the inconsistent tone.
Okay, at least I'm not crazy on that. Well, I don't think so. That's
Well, not for that reason.
reassuring. So I guess I will move on to my next issue. So, the first issue, the plot convenience. I know guys hate me when I do that, but meeting at a random time on a random rooftop.
Random rooftop. Where do you go to punch chairs?
Or do you go?
I
he
have
lived
my
there.
chair punching.
He lived there. She was. I don't know.
What she was doing there?
That's a good. Yeah. What was? Wait a minute.
She was protecting the chairs very poorly, but I think it kind of implies that she was possibly thinking of,
Jumping.
taking a little extra step. I don't know for sure, but
why go
I hear
there
there
in
are
that
some
specific
unmessed-
building?
it looked like a nice building. Did you see the chairs they had up there?
Didn't she give a reason for why she was there? There was a view or something that she always thought of when she was a kid, or
Yeah, but
I remember her saying it when they, like, she's trespassing.
Yeah,
And he's like,
I
"Hey."
forgot.
Yeah,
I know there is a line that's given to like
Yeah.
why she's there, but
she's trespassing, and he's like, "Oh, pretty girl on my roof." Silly.
she's not nuts. No, she's normal. She's healthy. She's sane.
Yeah, if she looked like, I don't know, some slug, he wouldn't have that same emotion.
Exactly.
okay. So if you kick open the doors to a roof and then beat the shit out of a chair, do you have the right to say somebody else is weird? Like maybe he's just trying to like play it coy.
Act normal.
I mean, yeah, you're trespassing, but don't tell anyone I just did that.
Don't kick doors. Don't kick chairs. Next issue would be many weird character moments, a flirt happening with a stranger that looked like someone with anger issues at first glance and doesn't make any sense. But I still refer to that damn rooftop.
But what
scene.
if that moment is unreliable narrator? What if that's the way she wants you to think about how they met?
Yeah, it is kind of an easy, if you want to
I
call
hate-
it plot contrivance, you could
I-
use that. essentially anything that is inconsistent is because of that narrator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
I
guys
don't,
make
I don't
a
like using that
valid
defense.
point. My third issue would be a second weird flirt would be Lily saying no, yet she engages in the intercourse. She pretends she is an unreliable narrator, yet
The
she
intercourse.
gives away her name on the rooftop instead of saying, "Oh, I'm whatever I'm called, but I'm not." But I don't know, like the dialogue in this movie, man. Great mentioned it. um. My next issue would be two strangers talking about very personal stuff on the first time they meet feels very odd. Maybe I'm crazy, but maybe it's
Yeah.
because women do that. I don't know. Guys, are you doing that? Are you sharing very
I mean, I've
personal
definitely
stuff?
done that. I've overshared before, but no, it's not something that people traditionally do. That's why it was kind of out there. You know, that's the romance movie
stranger.
start. It's a weird. Okay, say something that you've never said to anybody else. Go.
Yeah,
Fun
sure,
icebreaker.
I will do it. The teenager boy opening up that fast didn't feel like a teenager talking. And I know what I'm talking about. Look, I have brother and I have sister, and teenager they don't really talk that much. Sometimes between them they will because it's between them, but they don't
So you're
open
saying
up
you have a
that
friend?
easy. Huh?
You have a teen friend, so we can trust you. No, you're right. Like none of these people sound like believable. It is again this unreliable narrator. So maybe he is not quite as poetic as she's making him, but who knows? You could always kind of use that excuse, which really sucks. It excuses any of it, but you're right. That does also excuse any of the bad dialogue because that's just the way she remembers it, and she's unreliable.
Get her JP card.
So you can make a bad movie as long as you have an unreliable narrator. Got it. The music was bad, and I think the music was one of the reasons why I thought that was a comedy. Sometimes it's like they put on that really funny and happy music on a scene that should be kind of sad or frustrating. I don't have like the perfect example because I want to forget I've seen that movie, but I
There was
remember.
happy music on the getting pushed down the stairs scene, or like the
I
biting
think
scene.
there was. I can't remember to be honest. I don't know. Like
I cannot remember one bit of the music for this, sadly.
I remember
usually
at
it stands
points-
out in movies.
I remember at points being like, why did they put that soundtrack? Like many times, but sadly I cannot really pinpoint exactly when because again I want to forget I've seen that dog shit. Next issue would be forgettable characters. Maybe I'm crazy on that, but I thought these characters were not like something I'm like, oh, that character I want to see a spin-off of him or whatever. Or that character is very memorable. That character has a great character arc.
No,
Not really?
They're very surface level.
Yeah.
I mean, Atlas has a pretty good journey.
You're banned from my restaurant.
Oh, play on words rejected.
Sometimes dialogue felt very odd, but sadly I can't remember the exact moments. Since there's a pre-roll, I guess many times I was rolling my eyes or something. And lastly, it felt very off that the main character would be into the love interest despite him having a temper and not accepting no as an answer. And again, I feel like that movie did promote a lot essay, and I ate this shit. But yeah, these are my dislikes. I'm wondering if any of you would like to share their dislikes now that I shit on the movie.
Well, I think you're forgetting about the napkin's reappearance at the end when she goes to visit her father's grave with her child, and she sets the napkin down. And she's kept it with her all along because she was finally able to let these 5 things that she couldn't write on there go. I don't know. It feels so try hard to me, and it just wasn't effective. I feel like they were really reaching for some symbolism, and I feel like every part of it didn't work. I don't know. I'm not sure. So I don't hear that it strayed far from the book in a lot of ways. So I don't know exactly how this series got so popular. I guess she is kind of a controversial writer. So I don't know. But this is just the beginning of the franchise, because get ready for It Starts With Us. That is the next journey.
That sounds terrible. Please don't make that movie, or let it burn. I don't know.
How can it not be made? They made 50 million opening weekend, second only to the Wolverine.
They better release it with Deadpool Wolverine 2.
Well, they could do another lively Reynolds weekend. It would be lovely. Yeah, I forgot that they got 1 and 2 as a couple. That's kind of nice. She was in both of them.
And now I was very hard on it because I hated this movie, but I will admit there's a few things I did respect a bit about that movie. Actor did their jobs, entertaining at least. I wasn't bored. I didn't fall asleep unlike Crow. Lots of showing instead of telling. This I admit that was cool. Set design, costume, and makeup were fine. So I guess it had some redeeming value. But we didn't hear about you, Charles. What did you think of that movie?
I forgot a lot of it. I was hoping that I would get some of it jarred loose. It just felt shallow to me from what I remember.
Fact.
If it helps with the jarred loose, you remember they go to the restaurant. That's when Atlas sees her with the black eye, him with the thing in his hand, and he just instantly knows. So he gets upset about that. They fight. Atlas is later able to give her his number, and instead of like plugging it into her phone under like anybody else's number, she leaves it as a physical copy under her phone in the case. And then later, it's a little unclear whether or not whether or not Ryle actually was snooping, or if he did drop the phone and the number just came out. But he found that, and then that upsets him, so he must take it out on her. And that's when I believe he tries to bite the tattoo off of her.
Yeah.
And that's when it all comes to a head and ends. So then as she's going to the hospital, I believe Atlas is called. So then he comes in to kind of save the day or whatever. But it's not really a romance again between them. And instead, there's kind of more of an understanding. She then finds out that she's pregnant, and Ryle kind of keeps trying to help throughout the pregnancy. Like he comes over and helps build the crib, but it's still very standoffish. They have 2 different places. And then finally, once she gives birth, she asks Ryle, "What would you say to your daughter if she was dating somebody who did this?" And then he said, "You must end it." So then he basically signs away his parenting rights and leaves their life, unlike in the book, I guess.
Which is
That's
better.
Most of it. And then flash forward to she leaves the napkin on the grave, and then she finds Atlas and says, "Hey, are you into anybody right now? You seeing anybody?" Leaving the door open for It Starts With Us.
But do they show? Is it feasible to think that we saw 5 things with her father? Because I don't think it was even enough to fill the list.
It just has a little flashback. You can see that he's protective of her, perhaps overly, but I feel like you could finagle that into 1 on the list.
Yeah, I think the leaving the list blank but not showing us moments is kind of weird. Like, all right, so we're supposed to base the nothing on the limited experience we have with the father, and the
book does go into it a little bit further. It says like how he abused the mother and everything like that, and the abuse that he really committed why
Didn't
she
see
hates
it in
him.
the movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's more of what they toned down, where they say they really romanticized it in the novel.
And I will add more to that. I feel like the father is just there to beat people up. Like what was
Sweet.
like yeah. It's
Well, the mother was included in the novel.
yeah, like that father character, man, like I won't say wasn't needed because that's part of her character, but that was a bad character. I'm sorry, but if the only thing you can really, and I know it's from Lily perspective, but if it's only negative like that, like I don't know. That character, I'm just no. And I think that was the point, but I don't know. It's a bit sad that there's so much emphasis on such a bad character that's meant to be bad. I don't know. So Charles,
Yes.
do you want to add more on
No.
this ends with us?
No. Unpleasant.
Oh man, I thought like the retelling of like the last half of the movie would
No,
get you to kind of jar something.
I see. I was kind of focusing on the because I was trying to think if they gave you enough of a reason to understand the father, the napkin thing, and then like I forgot about the fact that she met Ryle after her father died.
Yeah.
So was she fell for another guy that was just a piece of shit human being?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. It's an intergenerational cycle.
That's a her problem.
Well, it ends
Yeah.
with us though.
All right.
Yeah.
Is us the proverbial us?
Her and the babe.
Yeah.
It's
No.
It's funny because I just realized I forgot a very important question
Take
for
the camera.
previous for the previous
Yeah.
the previous discussion we had, so we will get back at the other movies for a few seconds. But my grade for this abomination of a movie, 4.5 out of 10. Just 1 point above Crow, but it's because I didn't sleep through it. So what about you, Charles? What would be your grade if you remember?
I think
well
I have
enough?
a 2.5 or 5 out of 10.
Okay. And
Really
what about
generous.
you?
I think I'd have to go with a 2, or I guess a 4 out of 10. So sorry, 2 out of 5 or a 4 out of 10. It just, I don't know. I find it hard to justify anything more than that, other than, hey, it made money, so let's make another one. But there's nothing that it did here that's that special. It has like a very, it's not quite a Hallmark thing, but it's like so damn close. It's one of those like made for TV movies. It doesn't feel theatrical.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
tone
know.
is off. Yeah.
It feels very off to me. So yeah, for me it's a 2.
Well, we are not that far apart. So I guess this marks the end of this great discussion about a bad movie that everyone agrees is bad again. So, Charles, what would